I hit the wrong button. I didn't have the things checked. Wait. There we go. That's what I wanted. I hit the bum ching. You know what? Behind the scenes, if you guys knew what I was doing to get this show back up and running in this short period of time, I think I'm allowed that one mistake. Oh my God. Frantically moving around. Hey, if you're joining us after the fact and you didn't watch us live today, we had already done this. Tony and I had already done this for about 15 minutes. And then a massive power outage. There was a massive power outage. Literally, everything just went black in my studio and then came right back on. So we're going to try it again. I think it's better to do that than to, start kind of in the middle, have two video. Let's just do it again. Hey folks, my name's Dave McRae. Good morning. It's episode 28 of McRae Live. My guest is Tony Michael, who is, he's my partner in crime. He's my fellow dude from Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. I wanted to get Tony on the show today. If the power goes out again, we may just have to I don't know. But let's hope it doesn't do that. Tony, Michael, how the hell are you, lady? And if you were watching us before, you'll probably be like, hey, they've already done this. Yeah, we're going to go through some of this again just to make it cleaner. Here we go. Tony Michael, he's in the house. There he is. Oh, you know him, you love him. He's taking photos. Hi. Snapshot.
Say cheese, everybody in the chat room.
Cheese. Right now. Yeah, man, holy crap. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to Tony, and then boom, and I'm like, what the fuck?
I was going on. I was just like talking, and then I saw the chat room, and I'm like, oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah, and then so I was frantic, and at first I was like, we might have to push the show. And the weather looks okay right now, but something came through. And so we'll just
thought it was us because we've been getting shitty weather in Georgia for like 5 months straight. So I thought it was us again because I had no power at the beginning before we came on.
That's right. And all of a sudden I lost power for about 3 minutes, and then it took I was frantically trying to get everything on and upload the windows and put the thing on and send you the link and doing all this stuff. And then I think I'm ready to go, and I fucking hit the bum ching because I forgot to move the one screen over. Yeah. What are you going to do? Hey, we're here, episode 28 of McRae Live. Thank you for joining us again. Tony, let's start this again. Let's do this again, shall we? All right. How did you start? Where did you start? I already know the answer now because I have the photo.
People will know the answer, but
that's true.
Just to kind of quickly recap again, the first time I got, technically picked up a camera and started taking pictures, I guess, would be in 1982, third birthday. Right. Dave's going to share the picture here in a moment. And
I don't know if you'll hear Tony, so let's just hang on a sec. Let's just move this. There you go. There's Tony Michael on his third birthday in 1982. This was the first time in his underoos, the very first time he ever picked up a camera. 82, yeah, I said 82. 1982, the very first time he had ever picked up a camera. There he is, and the rest is history, and he still doesn't know what that big gift behind him was. I wonder what that big gift was.
Because it changed my life forever.
Maybe it was Castle Grayskull. Did you have Castle Grayskull?
It's possible. I did have Castle Grayskull. I had all that. Was the only.
That was 82, though. I think.
I wasn't a big. And I've said this before on Two Dudes. I was never really a big cartoon guy. I spent most of my childhood watching, I've shared the picture on Instagram. Watching like old TV shows like Cheers with my grandfather and stuff like that. Right. I didn't really do the cartoon thing that much. A little He-Man, little Transformers. So it's a really good chance that could have been Castle Grayskull because I had that. Never used it, but I had it.
It's entirely possible. So that's the first time you picked up a camera. And then before the power went out, of course, you were talking about how in high school you were this guy that liked. Oh, wait. I want to
backtrack just a little bit.
Back up, McRae!
Before we get to high school, no. Well, the reason why is because I wanted to show everyone the very first actual graded photo I did in 7th grade when I actually started to really take photography seriously.
Okay, let's see.
Got my hands on a Pentax K1000, which is pretty much universally the first film camera every photographer is going to get their hands on, back in the day, especially. It's just a Pentax K1000. Still works. These things, they're meant to outlast us. They're built forever, and this is the exact same one that I got in the 7th grade, which would have been around 14 years old. So the very first photograph, though, that I actually developed in a dark room and got graded for, never knowing the actual what would eventually come, the World Trade Center. That's the shot that I took of the World Trade Center. I don't know if you can see that. It's not a great, again, keep in mind I was 14 and just really learning how to use it. I don't know, because of the glare. Can you see the towers? Yeah. So I got a B- on it. I still dispute the grade to this day, but that's okay. But yeah, you know, it's like, it's never knowing that what would happen less than 10 years, you know.
That's true. Do you remember the teacher's name that gave you that B-?
Mr. Colpitts. He also taught me how to drive and gave me, he was my driver's ed teacher.
Mr. Colpitts? Colpitts. Well, yeah, listen here, Mr. Colpitts.
Junior high and high school, I don't know how it worked for you guys, but we were connected. Junior high and high school were connected.
Like in the same school?
Well, connected in the sense like teachers would teach junior high classes and high school classes.
Oh, so, I see.
So I don't know if you guys did that in Toronto, but a lot of teachers did
yeah, I went to high school in Ottawa, and it depends. My junior high school was actually a separate school, but
ours
there are some.
But the teachers, a lot of.
Oh,
them,
I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of them went from junior high to the high school. They were teaching in both.
Yeah, no, we didn't. I mean, that may have happened, but not that wasn't my experience anyway where I was. But I'm sure that has happened. So yeah, and again, I mean, in case you're joining us after the live show, this is the second time we're doing this because there was a massive power outage. If you're joining us again, you're like, oh, they're live again. Sorry about that, folks. Yes, Tony Michael is my guest, my partner in crime, the other half. One might argue the better half of the two two dudes.
I'm the bull in the shit with two dudes.
Yes, Tony is a professional photographer out of Atlanta, Georgia, and of course he's done everything from weddings to corporate to taking pictures of horror icons to he was working at a radio station in Atlanta, Georgia. He was telling me before we got before the heavens opened up and God kicked us off the interwebs. You were talking about how you worked at 95.5 The Beat
right out of high school.
Right out of high school, you moved down to Atlanta, Georgia. You got a job as their promotional photographer, taking photographs of celebrities that would come to the radio station. Who were some of the celebrities that you had a chance to meet and take photos of?
Mandy Moore, Shane West, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, 98 Degrees, all those.
I remember 98 Degrees.
All the teeny bopper people. Little Bow Wow before he became just Bow Wow.
Big Bow Wow.
Yeah, Big Bow Wow. Jermaine Dupri, a lot of the Atlanta artists, Ludacris, Jermaine Dupri, 112. I don't think people would know that. Jagged Edge. Some people might know who Jagged Edge is. These are R&B groups of the time and part of like the pop culture of the time. Yin Yang Twins, another R&B hip hop artist here in Atlanta. But anyways, they would come in, be interviewed by the radio DJs. I'd be taking the pictures, behind the scenes and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then they'd also host events that these people would be at, and I would be taking pictures of the events and stuff like that. So more or less, I was the station's promotional event photographer, which ultimately led, because I put my foot in the mouth saying that I could do what they do, to an on-air show. And as we joked about in the first stream, one of my jobs was to be the guy out photographing at the clubs on Saturday night with the DJs. But the shift they gave me was the Sunday morning 5 a.m. shift right after the club. So I literally got no sleep. And I know that was just because I put my foot in the mouth saying that I could do what these radio guys do. And I mean, I'm telling you, I lived on Red Bull. But it was good enough that they actually put me on for the full weekend, and I was able to do Saturdays and Sundays. And it was a fun 6 years I was there, between 99 and 2004, 5. Yeah, 5 before what ended up happening is 95.5 The Beat just, I don't know why or whatever, but they turned into an FM news talk radio. And all of us were like, I ain't doing news. Like we were gone. Like, I don't even fit the demographics that they were trying to cater to. They were trying to cater to like a 40-year-old crowd, and I'm like a 24-year-old kid, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not staying here to do news, and I'm not going to go do street news and all. Just not my thing. So I left and went back to Connecticut for a few years, and hated living up there because I couldn't afford it. The taxes in the Northeast are just ridiculous, and still was doing photography, was working photography part-time and working at a gym part-time to basically create full-time income. and finally said, well, if I'm going to really do this full time, really make a career out of this and do the things that I want to ultimately do down the road, I got to do this full time. And that's when I made the conscious decision to move back to Atlanta, Georgia. And Atlanta is just, I love it here. I honestly wish I was born here. You know, like I always joke and say, you know how we're in the day and age of what I identify and all that shit. I identify as a Southerner because it just feels like I'm home.
It feels like you're home.
It does. It feels like when I'm in Georgia, when I'm around, the people who've been, born and raised here, I just feel like I've known them my whole life. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense of what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Absolutely. When was the first, when you were like, was there a moment where you thought, wow, you know what? I'm really like that moment where you knew that I don't know if wanted is the right word, because wanted is sort of, people ask me, when did you know you wanted to do this or wanted to be that? It's like, you don't really want, it's in your instinct. Blood. Yeah. Exactly.
It goes back to the days in high school when I shared the story here the first time. High school photography took sort of a backseat. I was still doing it. Colt Pitts was still my teacher. He did video. He taught us video and photography when you got to the high school level. Junior high he was doing photography classes, and he did a sort of a intro to video. It was really like a 2-week thing if you were interested in taking that when you got to high school. Right. It was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Like this would be fun. And so in high school, I'd have both. I'd have my photography camera and my video camera always attached to my hip. Like my friends would get pissed because I'd always be like, come on, let me take a picture. Imagine that. Now, 1994, 95, nobody wanted to have their picture taken. Yeah. Juxtapose that to now, you go into school, there's like 100 kids with a freaking DSLR camera taking pictures. It's crazy, the contrast of the difference.
100%. And not just that, back in the day, unless you were taking photos on a Polaroid, right? The photos were not immediate. No. So you had no idea what they looked like. I mean, I remember being in college when, disposable cameras were all the rage, and you'd go to the store and you buy disposable cameras, and I love taking photos, in the selfie. I was the king of selfie before selfie was a term. I don't know how I was able to, and I couldn't see what the hell I was looking at. But for some reason I was, everybody's like, get Dave to take, the selfie. I'd be like this, and then we get it developed, and it was like the framing was immaculate. I don't know how I was able to do it without seeing it. It's just so funny.
Dad, because every parent did this back in the day. If they grew up in the 80s and 90s, our parents did this, because I know my parents did this. My dad was notorious for doing this.
Yeah.
He'd take the camera, he'd put the self timer on, and he'd put it on the ground in the driveway. Like, okay, now everybody get together and take a group photo. Of course, at the time, you're thinking like, whatever, I'm a kid. I'm like, I'm not too worried about composition. Now, I'd be like, Dad, you need to get that thing, put it on a tripod. You need to level that. Like, what are you doing?
My dad had...
didn't care.
Yeah, my dad had one of those big clunky old 70s Polaroid cameras that he'd go around and yeah. Well, that one. Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. So you right there, that's exactly the one that my father had.
Baby.
That's amazing. So there you are. You move back to Atlanta. When did you know? Again, there I go. I mean, you always know, but when you realized. When were you able to finally, what was the gig? What was the moment for you? Because for me, the moment for me, like in 2000, and I became I became full-time as a voice actor in 2006. And in 2004, 5, and 6, I was working part-time at a video store, Rogers Video here in Canada, which is the Canadian equivalent of Blockbuster. Now we still had
Blockbuster.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now we had them up here too. We had a slew of Blockbusters up here, but we also had Rogers Video, which is and that's where I worked for a couple years while I was pursuing my career as an actor and as a voice actor. And so what was and then there was a gig that I landed in about August, September of 2006 that paid handsomely, and I made the choice to I realized that I'm getting. Because I was part-time, the salary the payment that I was about to get for this gig was like 7 months worth of part-time at Rogers, right? You know, so I figure, you know what, I'm going to leave. I'm going to kind of, and really kind of make it go. That was my moment. And I haven't looked back, which is amazing. So what was the moment for you where you realized that you were able to do this full-time, not have a part-time job doing something else? And and what was that gig, if you remember? You don't have to. You don't have to tell me how much it paid, but just that gig,
I think
that
moment for me was when I started all of a sudden, and it just organically happened. It didn't I didn't seek for it. It just happened.
Right.
When I started getting job inquiries from New York Life Insurance, AT&T, Ashley Furniture. I don't know if you have an Ashley Furniture. Okay, so you know who they are. When I started getting contact from their representatives say, hey, we want you to start doing commercial shoots for us, I was like, okay, I must be good at what I'm doing here, because I'm getting calls now from big brands, not just little brands, you know. When I'm getting, you know, invited to ILM, Industrial Light Magic, to do events for them and video and photo shoot these events for them. Like that to me right there, like I knew like, okay, I'm good enough that these people obviously, you know, like the work that I'm doing, that they want to pay me to, you know, do work for them for whatever it is, whatever ad campaigns that they're doing for. I think it was in that moment that I was like, oh shit, this is like for real. But I don't know how to explain it. Like, I never boasted about it. I just kind of went at it and just said, okay, this is my job. This is what they hired me to do. And now I got to go and execute, you know, the job and do it, you know, properly, or I'll never get a job again. And, you know, it'll tarnish my name, because I know a lot of photographers. I think, let me just backtrack that really quick, just to why what I'm about to say, what I'm going to say. I had done so much up to that point, and I had done a lot of different things. I was like 33. I think if I was in my 20s, I probably would have handled it a lot different. Does that make sense? I probably would have been like, I'm doing AT&T. I'm the shit. I'm the man. Where at 33, I was like, okay, I'm grown. I got to be mature about this, and I need to handle this properly and not, you know, turn my clients away from me that they feel like they've just hired a young and inexperienced kid to take these photos for them and to hand. Does that make sense now?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
So, because I didn't want to diss a young photographer there for a moment and give them the wrong idea, but it was in that moment, that's when I knew, like, okay, I've reached a level here with this that I can start, you know. And I didn't, and again, this wasn't something that I sought. They sought me. It's not like, you know, when a lot of times people ask like, well, how did it happen? How did you break in? I didn't really break in. I just did my work, and, you know, my website's one of the top researched in the area of Atlanta when they pull up photographers. And a lot of times, yeah, you know, right place, right time, because if I wasn't in Atlanta, I may not have gotten these jobs if I was still in Connecticut. Too. You know what I mean?
That's true too. Yeah, no, for sure. And I remember, you know, when we first met, you know, we were talking about your work and stuff, and you told me that you were one of two guys that were the first to shoot a gay wedding in Atlanta, which is really cool. Tell me about that, because that's a significant marker.
My buddy Skip, yeah, her and her mate, because it was two females that I did. There was another photographer that day. There was two of us doing the first legalized, when gay marriage became legalized in the country. And the girl who was shooting that day as well too, she was shooting two guys. So it was just kind of like, you know, the juxtapose of that. You have a male photographer shooting two females. You have a female photographer shooting two males. So it was just interesting, the contrast of that day. But yeah, you know, I mean, look, I mean, I've always been a firm believer of, you know, love is love, and whatever makes you happy at the end of the day. And I ain't here to tell anyone how they should live their lives and how they shouldn't live their lives. The fact that we actually had to pass a law to tell someone that, yeah, it's okay for you to marry this person, I think is just obnoxious to begin with. I think you should just be, if you want to marry this person, there you go. Me personally, when it comes to marriage, I start to have a panic attack. You know, like,
I think
get away.
It's and again, not to go off on a tangent, but I think a lot of that comes from how embedded into the religious, you know, traditions that a lot of these things are, and you know, I'm not a religious person, and then of course there are practicing, you know, Christians. There are, you know, Christians that don't practice at all and don't care. I mean, there's a large spectrum. There's fundamentalists. There's a large spectrum of people that really care and are totally against it for their reasons. And then there are people that don't care. And I'm not a religious person at all. So I'm the same way. I'm like, I mean, it doesn't affect me at all. It's not like I really don't care if you're,
Yeah, I just found it.
I just don't care. Two guys want to get married, knock yourselves out. I think it's great.
I remember talking to Skip that day when I was taking her pictures, the woman who contracted me to do her photos.
Right.
And I just said, I said, I even asked her, I said, don't you find it odd that like they had to pass a law for you to get me? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like she even said, it's good, but it's also just whatever. But anyways, it's cool to have that on my resume as one of the first photographers to do that.
You've done the weddings, you've done the corporate,
done a few, not many. I'd rather stick my finger in an electrical shock socket than shoot a wedding. Not a big fan of doing weddings. Never have been. I've only done a handful, and I've kept it that way because it just, not a big fan of that. But my early days before I got into where I'm at now with it, and I know that's why everyone's here, because they want to hear the horror photography and my approach to it. And we're going to get to that, guys. A lot of the stuff that I was doing back in the day was just a lot of kids portrait, family portraits, and just anything that I can do, to collect money, and I even still do that to this day. My day can go from doing headshots for a law firm to shooting a real estate home to shooting, a corporate event to filming in an industrial factory, chicken coops, the chickens that are processed here in the States for Purdue and Tyson's Chicken and all this stuff like that. Like that literally is what my week can look like. I can go from one to the other, shooting something big for AT&T to something small, like a little real estate, house, whatever.
Dude, I totally can relate. I remember when I did the trailer for Inside Out for Disney Pixar, and I'm downtown, I'm doing that. I go home and I'm doing a corporate thing for some e-learning project all of a sudden. It's like night and day, right? You know what I mean? It's fascinating that, the degrees for which that can take place. But you're right. I mean, it's so how did you you've always been a horror fan. And
since I was a kid, we mentioned that in the first stream.
Exactly.
In high school, I was the horror guy, and you were the same way, and there weren't many of us, when people, anything horror movie related, they'd be like, Tony, you go to see it this weekend? And in my yearbook, it's Tony, gonna see you when you make your first Halloween movie. I'll be there,
right.
Because we made a Jason versus Michael fan film. It's so bad, it's comical. I will convert it digitally, and I'll watch it with Dave first, and maybe me and Dave will do a live watch with it to show you guys so you could laugh. It's bad. I mean, it's right. It's so bad. I mean, like I had a scene where I killed one of my friends, and I Jason cuts with the plastic machete, and he falls like that. There's no blood. There's nothing. I couldn't do blood because we were 14, 15-year-old kids, freshmen and sophomores in high schools. So we had a lot of restrictions on what we can do. But I was dead set on my teacher, Mr. Colpitz. I was like, I want to make this. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do what you want as far as the curriculum. And he liked that. He liked that I would push the creative boundary and challenge myself as a creator even back then, rather than sticking to the curriculum that, go out and shoot this train tracks this weekend in, Somers, Connecticut, or go down to New London, Connecticut and shoot the shoreline. I was like, no, man, I want to make a scary movie, even though I know it's going to be bad. And I know I've got restrictions, and I know the mask looks like crap. And I know the acting is going to be really crappy. I just wanted to do that. And me and my friends wanted to do it. They were on board with it. So I look at it now more with a delight of like, that was a fun time with my friends in high school, even though today's internet audience would rip me to shreds and they'd laugh at it and I get torn up. But you wouldn't know the true meaning behind it and the fun that, we had as 14, 15-year-old kids with the limitations, of, having the Don Post mask and not the real good Myers masks that I have back there or what you have behind you. In our minds, we thought we were making a Hollywood production. That's where our imaginations went to, even though it wasn't, and it certainly doesn't look like that. in the mindset of a 14 and 15-year-old, that's where we were. And I miss a little bit of that innocence that we once had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I made, Michael Myers videos with those shitty masks as well, in the 90s.
What was your go-to outfit when you would dress up as? Mine was the black. I would wear a black shirt, button-down shirt, and just black pants. That's it.
Yeah. Well, before what happened? Yeah. So 95, I had that. I finally got it's not I mean, they couldn't advertise it as a Michael Myers mask. I think it was just called like The Mask or something like that. It was just, I mean, you knew what it was supposed to be, but and of course at that time, because you couldn't get, masks like that, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know what I mean? And, but I didn't have a mechanic suit or a jumpsuit or, coveralls. I wore the same thing. I wore a black dress shirt with black pants. And now, then
did you paint your eyes black? Like I did that as well.
I did,
too.
Yes, I did. It was like gold standard. That's what you had to do. Now, here's what's funny is that my friend Brian, his dad one year dressed up as a Ghostbuster. And he dressed up, and I was like, well, that's not going to work because, the Ghostbuster suits are beige. He's like, no, my dad fucked up. My dad actually just went and bought a pair of like blue coveralls or whatever. And I was like, what? And he's like, he's not going to wear them anymore. So Brian, his dad, gave them to me. And of course it said Venkman on it, but I just tore that off and tore, the Ghostbuster patches off the arms. And I had this blue mechanic suit essentially. And finally I was able to actually wear one in about 97 or so. So, but yeah, those are the days. Okay. So you're doing the photography thing. You are establishing yourself as a professional photographer in the Atlanta area. Like you said, you're shooting for some big corporate companies. You've shot stuff for Industrial Light and Magic. Where's the point now where you're not shooting horror characters yet.
Nope.
Where you jump online because you're a big Halloween fan. You jump online, you create a bit of a YouTube channel. You're doing this YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And how did that start? Like what inspired you to do that? Was it just like, geez, I need to get this off my chest and talk about it?
No, I love horror movies. I mean, like really love the genre. Like, I mean, I love just being able to sit down with you once a week and just shoot the shit. You know what I mean? I've never looked at two dudes and some bullshit as we're two, certified critics and we know what we're talking about. I've only looked at it as we're just two friends hanging out talking about a genre that both of us, I assume, with you have that same type of passion for.
Yeah.
It's been that way since I was 6 years old. And the very first time I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, it was literally like Heaven's Gates opened up for me. The Hallelujah chorus is playing. And I see Freddy on the screen and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I literally fell in love with the genre from that moment on. And I've watched everything that I haven't been able to watch everything, but I try to watch as much as I can. And I'm always loving the suggestions from, the fans that join us every week for films that I like. Basket Case. I'd never even heard of Basket Case. And I was like, okay, well, I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy it, Right. It was just, and I'd never heard of it. I'm like, fuck, this is a really fun horror film. So, going back to then, that's when the roots for horror films for me began at such a young age, at 6 years old. And then it just carried it, and it hasn't stopped. I've never stopped loving the genre. So when I started the channel, that was my approach, was just to have fun with it. And then it just became to a point where it's like everybody wanted shit to be technical, or they wanted to talk about basically every reveal, okay, that's being revealed weekly. And I'm like, well, that's not the point of going to seeing a movie. It's like the Batman, with Robert Pattinson. Every time they release something new, everyone's talking about it. I'm like, at this day and age, you guys just want to see every scene as it's being made and then go see the movie. Like, I mean, literally, that's like the attitude of the movie going audience today. Like, that defeats the purpose of being entertained and enjoying the movie. So that's when I made a decision to say, fuck this, I'm done with it. But I didn't want to quit it entirely. And that's when you and I sat down and discussed about doing a show together. So I still feel like I can be a part of it, but I don't have to worry about it from the technical side, because now we're doing the watch as we're talking. And I love that concept because we have the source material right there. And we're able to hang out and just shoot the shit with everyone while we're watching a horror film. And that's what it should be. It's about a community, about a good, fun community together.
That's it. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I came across your channel. I don't know how. I don't know if I was searching Halloween stuff or what it was, but I remember I came across.
Because we were doing the same type of content.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. And this is 2017, 2018. And I remember the opening of every video you do. Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. And of course, you were not on camera. Well, you did put yourself on camera a few times, but most of the videos that I saw at the beginning,
voiceovers.
Was just your voice. Yep. And I liked your energy, and I liked your charisma and the knowledge that you were putting forward. I was like, yeah, this guy gets it. He's good. And then there were a few videos that you did where you did put yourself on camera, and I was like, oh, so that's what this guy looks like. And you would still the same thing. And you'd show off your vinyl albums and shit like that. And then I think what ended up happening was one night in 2018, you were doing because this is sort of how we met. Tabitha's been asking this question a couple of times. So Tabitha, if you're still in the room, we're going to answer it now. There was one night I think I saw, because I subscribed to you, and I think I saw, it was one late night, and I think I saw you were live. This is 2018, and you were doing a movie watch.
Might have been the last time I was live.
You were doing a movie watch live, and you were just watching movie. You had the movie on behind you, but you were watching in front of you. You had people, in the chat room, and I said something in the chat room. I forget what it was. I just, logged in and said something in the chat room, and then people started, to know that I was in there, and then we started to chat. And then I think when that was done, we reached out to each other personally, and we're talking and things like that. And then you went off the grid for a bit because you got so busy with your photography, and doing the shit that you do to make a living. But we kept in touch.
Yep.
And then when I think it was when it was getting close.
When season 1 for Cobra Kai was coming, that's when I came back one last time, and then that was it.
Right. Because that video you did got like 500,000 views. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. It was ridiculous, like 750,000 or something. It was ridiculous. And then you went away again. And then it was
that was it. When I went away again, that was it. That was the last time. I came back briefly, but it was during that run when I did Cobra Kai, and I was talking Halloween. It was just before the 2018 Halloween film was about to come out.
That's what I was just going to say, is then we started to connect.
We did a live watch of something. What did we do on
a live watch of the trailer?
And that's the idea of when we were like, hey, we got something here.
Yeah. So that would have been June 2018. You and I did a live watch. No, not a live watch. We just broke down the trailer. We did it live. Reviewed it.
No, we did it live.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And that was on your channel.
Yep.
And then the summer got kind of busy, and then we reconvened again, I think at the end of the summer. And I know I was heading to Hollywood for the Voice Arts Awards, and also to attend the convention. And then the movie was coming out in October. I saw the film at the premiere. But I think that was when we started to sort of really like, hey, because you said to me, I don't think I have the energy because of how busy you are to do like my channel the way I was doing it. But how about we do a show? Like we kind of said, maybe we should do a show.
That was my cop out. I had just reached the point where I didn't want to do. I got turned off by the
well, there's a lot of bullshit.
The toxicity that's on YouTube. Yeah. YouTube to me is a cancer. It's just full of people who want to be negative and just I can't.
But there's great people like those in the chat room right now.
For sure. But everyone knows what I'm talking about.
He's talking general. He's not talking about anybody specific. He's talking a general sort of sense, which is right.
It's like I don't like being around that type of stuff. When you surround yourself with negativity, it's going to affect your life. Now, look, being criticized, for a movie or critiqued or whatever, that's totally different. But when I'm just hanging out and shooting the shit, and people are taking me literally and like starting fights with me, like I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm in an argument with someone that I've never even met. Like, what the hell?
Well, that's because there are just there are people that get their kicks. Like a lot of trolls and a lot of people that antagonize and online are people that need to feel in some sort of way, in some sort of fashion, validated and heard. That's what it's all about, right? Yep. And that's why, there are times where I will have a live show ready to go, and just as I'm about to start the show, I notice that I have 2 down likes. Well, let's think of this logically. It's not obviously those 2 down likes are not because they've watched the show or the video and made up their mind that they didn't like it's there out of spite. It's there because they don't like me. And it's their only way of, it gives them a sense of validation. To be able to click the thumb down makes them actually feel validated in some sort of way. That's my thumb down. Look at that. There's 2 there and one of them is mine. You know what I mean? And it gives them a sense of, validation. It's usually these people are just little people that have nothing going on. I don't mean little people as in little people. I just mean little people in terms of their presence and they just got nothing going on. They probably have miserable lives. They're pissed off in their own lives, and instead of trying to make something else out of their own lives, they try to bring other people that sure. It's the classic thing that's been going on for decades and decades and decades, long before the internet even existed. It's just, this is the evolution of that. And I just don't care. I just like, whatever, it just doesn't, but you got to have thick skin. Yep. You have to have thick skin to be able to do this, because there are people that are going to try to get under that skin but it just doesn't, it just doesn't bother me.
On the flip side to it too, I had known right about then, when we were getting close to doing 2 Dudes and Some Bullshit, I had already been, since August of that year, I had already begun the beginning stages. I hadn't done a shoot yet, but I knew what I was projecting to in 2019.
Yes,
let's the horror theme. So that was the other reason why
let's circle back to that. Let's circle back. So that's sort of how Tony and I met, folks, and where we sort of agreed to do the 2 Dudes show, and now we're closing in our 60th episode this Friday, which is unbelievable. Yeah, and so. Transition now. So you are a professional photographer, you're doing your shit, yep. And now you start to get into taking these photos of these classic horror characters. What's going on? I
can tell you the exact moment. This was in August of 2018 that's when I made the decision to stop doing YouTube. Like, that's it. And I think I had already approached the idea, and you were like, yeah, let's come back to this and let's talk about it some more. And you did, but I think I had already pitched the idea to you because, we had already done the live stream on the Halloween 2018 trailer. I just had to get through some stuff. And that was in August of 2018 when I decided, okay, I know what I want my Instagram to be, because my buddy Devin, who I've talked about on here, he was like, why don't you just do horror photography? You love it so much. Because I was reaching a point on Instagram where I was getting very frustrated. I was doing the same shit that every photographer and their mother is doing right now. The same type of street photography photos, same type of presets, same type of landscape photos, and my Instagram feed alone was becoming like so repetitive. And look, this is not a shot or a diss at photographers out there who are doing this, but it's not hard work to go out in the city and just take pictures of, street photography and people and random daily stuff. That's, it's an easy thing to do. You just pick up your camera, capture the moment, call it a day, and throw a preset on it. I just felt like, photography was becoming so repetitive. If one person was doing it, everybody was doing it. The same type of street photography photos that Vivian Maher was doing back in the 1940s and 50s. There's a reason why those photos hold a special place in the lexicon of photography, because it was a period of time that we'll never see again, the way people were styled and dressed and just the atmosphere of the time of the 40s and 50s. And again, not taking away from what modern people are doing in the city, in the streets. But the problem is that, like I just said here about high school, was it in this stream or the last stream, where like when I was in high school, I literally was the only kid with a camera in my hand. Now in high school, you literally got 50, 60, 70 kids with cameras. I go into Atlanta, I'm seeing, photographers everywhere. And again, I'm not taking away from what they're doing, but it's just become so repetitive, and everybody's doing the exact same shit, the exact same style, the exact same preset effect. And I'm like, there's just nothing creative about it. And that's when Devin planted the seed in me. And I started to think like, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to approach it like, the way my mind works is I want everything to be authentic. I want the costumes to be down to a fucking T. Everything's got to look, on point. So thanks to you, because honestly, if I didn't connect with you, this never would have happened. I met you, we started doing the stream, and Chris Baber, who was a Patreon of yours and a watcher.
Big supporter of the channel. Great supporter.
He gave me that mask, the very first mask. He sent it to you, and you sent it to me. And I was like, well, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to take a shot or do a shoot with it. Either it's going to work or it's not going to work. And it literally like it blew up. It literally, I went from like just being the average photographer doing the same shit that every other photographer was doing on Instagram to all of a sudden people are like, okay, who is this dude? You know what I mean? Like I was even getting, like Scout, Taylor Compton, she was commenting on the photos and stuff. And the other chick who plays Linda and Rob Zombie's Halloween, I can't remember her name. She was, she started to follow me. I was like, okay, so I've hit a nerve here. Now I have to elevate it and take it to the next level. I think the second character I brought into was Sackhead Jason.
Well, I mean, and then sorry, I just want to interrupt, but I mean, this is impressive. I mean, on your Tony Michael photo Instagram, the one where you are posting these horror photos now, you have 8,335 followers in 1 year, and you're only following 245 people. That's impressive. You see, sometimes in social media, and again, I'm not trying to, but let's look at the, sometimes, don't just look at how many people are following somebody. Look at how many people they're following as well, because the social media landscape, by and large, and this is by and large, doesn't mean everybody in every situation, but generally speaking, the social media landscape, especially if you're not, Justin Bieber, who's probably got the entire population of Canada following him on social media, 40 million people, unless you're like at that level, he's probably got more than that. No, you're right. He's probably got like 65 million or 100 million. Who the hell knows? But when you're at that level in the entertainment industry, you don't have to follow anybody, because you're in the pop culture and people just follow you, no matter what. But generally speaking, social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, tends to work on this tit for tat. I follow you, you follow me. In a lot of cases, you can look and say, wow, they have 10,000 followers. Yes, but they're also following 10,000 people. So, I mean, you kind of have to look. It's impressive when you can have nearly 10,000 followers, but you're only following 200 people. I mean, that's impressive, my man.
Like 1 year ago, March, because that's when I started this, roughly around. And I posted my first Myers picture.
It's about a year now.
Well, it was the end of March. It was closing in. I was about the end of March, and I was at 432 followers to my 200.
Right.
I literally went from nothing to 8,000 followers in less than 1 year.
It's impressive. And that goes to show you too, that's a tip to the quality of the work that you are producing, because you've done Michael, you've done Jason, you've done
the core five.
There is a great, one of my favorite photos you've done. And people are going to go, it's Michael Myers. No, actually, it's not. Oh, his Michael shit's great. But one of my favorite photos that you've done is Ghostface sitting in the chair with the knife. that it's just, I love that. I would get that fucking blown up and put in my studio here. I love that the lighting, the composition, the use of light and shadow. It's a great photo.
I can't even take credit for how that came about. My buddy Albert.
I wish I could show that photo. Let me see if I can get that photo right now.
Yeah,
and put it up.
My buddy Albert, who no, go ahead. I skate with Albert because I don't know if anybody knows this. I skate. I'm a hobby skater. I'm not good. Albert's really good, and I'll film him skating, and I take photos for him skating, and he'll play Ghostface for me sometimes. And he was just sitting in the chair, and he was just kind of flicking the knife back and forth, and I was just like, dude, hold up the number one finger and do that, like right in front of your face. And I was just like, hold that pose, because I was setting up for a totally different shot. And then that's how the shot came. It was just a natural, organic thing. He was sitting in the chair waiting for me to get situated, and he was doing that. And I saw what he was doing, and I just I saw the composition, and I was like, and like you said, the lighting. I was like, the lighting's really good. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take the shot, and that's how the shot came about. So it was really my boy who led me to the shot, because if he wasn't sitting in the chair, I never would have taken it.
Very cool. Let me see if I can. Sorry, hang on a sec here. I got to. Because Instagram won't allow you to, so I've saved it, and I just want to send it to myself so I can put it up here in the stream. It's a terrific photo. I mean, it's so simple, but it's one of my favorite photos that you've taken a lot of great photos, but it's one of my favorite ones that you've taken. So hang on a second. Okay, I'm downloading it there. All right, now I should be able to bring it up. Let me just.
I could have just sent it to you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You could have
on my phone. I could have just DM'd it to you.
That's true. You could have, but what the hell? Okay, we're doing this on the fly here. Let me get that ad. Go here. All right. So again, I don't know if they'll be able to hear you, because I don't know if I've said that. But hang on, I'm going to put it up here. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to put it up on the, make sure they can hear me. That's important at the very least. All right. So yeah, here's that photo that I was talking about. It's one of my favorite photos that you've ever taken. And it's this one right here. And it's so simple. It's cheeky. You know, I love the irony of it. I love the lighting, you know, it looks like he's got a window to his left. Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think it's just such a cool photo, and it's definitely one of my favorite photos that you've that you've taken. And I don't know, there's something about it. I really like it, and I could totally see that being the cover of the cover of an album, or the cover of a soundtrack, or the cover of a magazine, or anything. It's just so simple, but you're right. It's the Ghostface personality. You've captured everything you need to capture in just such a simple shot and simple frame, and it's just awesome. Just awesome stuff. And I think
that's why the growth of, you know, I don't think there's an exact formula. Like, I never, like, so many people have asked me to do YouTube channel videos on photography and talk about, like, I didn't want to do that. Like, you know, how did I grow from nothing to 8,000 followers in 1 year? Like, I didn't want to do that. But I think if I had to answer that question on the growth and the support that I get, one, I'm very engaging with people who post.
You are.
Know, I make sure of that, because I'm very grateful that someone has taken a moment out of their day to, hey, I really like this photo, man. So I'm going to take a quick moment and say thank you. I really appreciate you, saying that, and the support. That's very important to me, to show that to everyone who comments on my photos. But I think the way I approach the core five, Michael, Jason, Leatherface, Ghostface, and who's the other one? Who am I missing? Michael.
Freddie.
Freddie. There we go. Freddie. I knew I was missing somebody in there. It's early still for me. Okay.
That's true.
It's 12:30.
How are you for time? Because you said
I'm good. I'm watching it. We're good.
You're good? Okay.
So what I wanted to be is, I wanted to almost be like a branch extending to these characters, but making sure I stay true to the authenticity of where these characters came from. That's why when I shoot my Michael pictures, I stay in line with the Nick Castle 78 version of Michael.
Right.
I get everyone asking me all the time, oh, do Tyler version and Rob Zombies, and do George P. Wilbur's. And it's like, as much as I love Halloween 4, and I do, it's my favorite sequel in the franchise. I've said that a million times. My favorite Michael is Nick Castle's. It will always be Nick Castle's. It will always be what Carpenter and Dean Cundy and Tommy Lee Wallace did, which is why on the new post that I shared yesterday of the Michael pick, I literally was fist pumping because I knew the lighting. If someone was a real Halloween fan, I nailed the lighting. I haven't nailed the lighting all the time, which is really hard to do digitally because you have to remember something. Back in the day, when Tommy Lee Wallace was lighting the scene, he was lighting the scene, yes, with gels, but also whatever the white balance was in the film. Because the film was already, the film white balance was already preordained when they loaded it into the camera. So
there's the photo.
As long as Tommy Lee Wallace is with the ink with his gel is matching it to the white balance on the film, you're good to go. I'm having to guess digitally where I need to put my white balance and am I getting it close to what Tommy Lee Wallace did. And when I saw that, when the end results was coming out, I was like, I fucking nailed it. I was so excited. And that's just the little part about it. Like the pose is great. My buddy was great in the shot, but I'm looking at the overall aesthetic look. And that was my goal, so like when I shoot Leatherface photos, which is my third most popular character, I try to stay in line to what Tobe Hooper did in the original film. I don't go beyond that. Like I've had people say, hey, bring this guy in from part 2. And like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm really focused in on how these characters were originally presented to us. And I feel like I'm telling more of their story. I'm extending the story. Does that make sense?
Absolutely it does. And you're combining your passions. You're combining horror with photography.
Exactly.
And that's why when you look at the photos, you can tell that a lot of time and effort and love. I mean, your Carrie photos, my God.
Carrie, I forgot about that.
I mean, holy shit. I mean, you hired, you had somebody there and you had the dress that she wore, and you had blood all over her, and you took and you had the fireworks going off in the background. If you guys haven't seen that, check out Tony Michael's Instagram, Tony Michael Photo. Okay, so you can see below in the bar at the bottom, he's got two. The bottom one, Tony Michael Pics, that's more of his landscape sort of.
It's just country black and white photos.
Yeah, exactly. Really awesome, white, and really awesome shit.
Stuff.
If you want to check out his horror photos, go to Tony Michael Photo and look for those Carrie ones. I mean, just awesome. And I think you even have like a behind the scenes video somewhere.
Yeah, on Instagram, there's behind the scenes shots in the Instagram stories that I've saved that you guys can see the locations of where we're at and whatnot, and how I'm putting the shoots together. And, I haven't done a full in-depth video like I'm doing here with Dave. Maybe at some point I will, but yeah, there's the thought process really is just staying true to the origins of the characters, the original characters. Like I'm in the process right now of extending and bringing in Valak, the nun. And I'm going through some ideas of how I want to do that and some really some religious things. I got the okay. Finally, it took me forever, but I'm super stoked about this because I love this church, the interior. Winter Soldier, where they filmed Winter Soldier, and the scene where he's carrying the casket, Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, he's carrying the casket of his girl from the 40s who dies in that church. That church is here in Atlanta, but it's just old Catholic, Gothic style looking church. It's so cool, especially the interior of it. I've been pleading with them. I was like, please, can I do a photo shoot in here of the nun? And they finally just gave me the okay for it. Now I'm putting the costume together. So, it's going to be freaking epic. The shoot will take place inside this church where they filmed Captain America: Civil War, or Winter Soldier. Sorry, Winter Soldier.
Now, are you going out like the nun has? I'm sure you are. Like you're going full on. Like the look of the nun, right?
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards.
Except it's gonna be instead of a girl. I couldn't get a girl to get the physical, the feature look. I took a dude. I asked a guy. I was like, "Can you do this for me?" Because
sure.
I was like, "You have the features. You got the right facial structure, and
right."
My makeup artist can get you to look very close to the model, because the model who plays her, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I can see her face. She has a very distinctive look.
Does she ever?
Ever, like really ever. So I'm like, I need something as close to that. And it just so happened I was looking at a picture of my buddy. I'm like, dude, you could pass for this. Like if we get you your makeup just right, I can totally pull this off, and no one's going to really know otherwise, because it's not like you see her boobs in the nun.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, not at all.
I was like, well, I got to take some liberty here to work with what I have. But that's what I mean by taking my time and, paying attention to the little details, and, whether it's Leatherface or even my Freddy pictures. My Freddy pictures, I think, are my weakest. I don't think they're my strongest, even though I'm working to make them better. You know what I mean? Like, cause I'm really trying to channel more of what Wes did originally. I felt for a moment I was getting too campy with it, like too Nightmare on Elm Street 4, too Nightmare on Elm Street 5. I'm like, no, I need to bring it back to more the darker, edgier, you know, like even though the photo isn't dark in the sense of like the term dark, just the simplicity of Freddy's glove being in the frame with the door in the background. That's the type of symbolism shots that I was looking to start doing, which was one of my more recent Freddy pictures. Like there's a symbolic, you know, to that 3, 4 better lock your door. You know what I mean? Like that I knew. The lighting, okay, may not have been, you know, the choice that some people would have gone with. They would have maybe lit, you know, gone a little bit darker. I went for more the misty dream type look, you know, to the photograph by overexposing the shot in the background a little bit while keeping Freddy's exposure more in line to being normally exposed, which is a really hard thing to do. But that's why I kind of backed off from doing Freddy for a while, because like I felt like I was getting a little bit too campy with it, and I don't like that version of Freddy. I like the more serious and, you know, whatever. So, but yeah, you know, it's cool to be able to love what you do, be able to do it as a career, and then to take that love and passion and say, hey, you know what? I want to start doing this. And this is how I want to approach my Instagram. And that was the decision I made in August of 2018, was like, I don't want my Instagram and my photography work to just be the same type of shit that everyone else is doing. I want it to stand on its own. I want to be doing something that nobody else is doing. And I'm not saying there aren't cosplayers who are out there doing this type of stuff, but they're not doing the multiple characters. They're either doing one character and that's pretty much it. I wanted to do the core 5, Michael, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, Ghostface, and an occasional Carrie, Valak, you know, the nun, and working on doing something with Annabelle as well, too, down the road. And I want to do something with Pennywise It. In fact, I'm working with an artist right now. The problem with Pennywise is I want to do the OG Tim Curry version. I don't want to do nothing against the new. I grew up with, you know, the old, and that's what I want to do. It's getting the hair. It's getting that fro-y type, you know, and that's been the Achilles heel for us, because we haven't been able to find something that looks as close to what Tim Curry was wearing on set that day. So once I find something along that line, then that's what I'm going to do a shoot. I won't ever do a shoot if the character doesn't look anything close to what I want it to be displayed, whether it's Michael in the jumpsuit that I have is a dark olive green. I know here comes the debate. It wasn't dark olive green. I think it was dark olive green, and that's just my opinion.
It was. Look, there are people that have spruce green, you know, coveralls that look almost like they're so bright, and I'm like, they were not that color. And to be fair, they were not the dark royal blue either.
Right.
They were more of a dirty. I mean, to be honest with you, they were more of a dirty greeny blue, is what they. I know that sounds like a cop out answer. Oh, you're trying to get the best, you know, but that is really it. They were more along the lines of the one that you're using. It was more like that, which is why, like, the reason why in certain shots or certain behind the scenes shots they look very green is because, well, I mean, you know this. There's this great shot of I don't know if it's a still frame or if it's a behind the scenes photo of Michael coming over the couch in the original Halloween and trying to stab Laurie, right? But the knife, you know, goes into the couch, and there's his arm is in the light and it looks very green, but out of the light it looks kind of darkish greeny blue, and you know, people are like, you see there, and it's like, but you can't, like, the exposure. Even Dean Cundy has said that it wasn't lit up, like it wasn't green, right. You know, it depends on the color timing you do in post-production. It depends on the lighting exposure that you have. It depends on the exposure of the camera. You know, it wasn't these bright olive green jumpsuits I see are so not what it was.
I got fortunate with finding a dark pair of olive green one, and I knew how that was going to play off of the color balance when I would shoot it. And that's the other key thing that this is, again, the consideration that a lot of people don't take into when you are doing Michael in a photo shoot. You need to understand how, wherever your white balance is in your camera, you got to know how that's going to play off of the colors of whatever your person's wearing. So if he's wearing a blue, but you're gonna you're gonna shoot more of like an orangey, you know, tungsten color, 56K or higher. 56K is meaning just the color temperature of the color of like what the overall tone of your image. Well, that's gonna throw your jumpsuit off, you know. But if you stick to more of what Dean Cundy and Tommy Lee Wallace and Carpenter were shooting, then you can pretty much nail, if you get your white balance, if you know where your white balance needs to be, which I keep mine more on the cooler side, below 56. Usually I'm like around 40 to like 3,700 in that range, 44,000 to 3,700 in the more cooler tones. Then you're protecting the color that's on there, and then you can play with it a little bit in post-production, which is what I do, very, very little, to get the overall feel and look of how Michael originally looked in the film. Now, am I saying that the overalls I had were the exact color that Nick Castle wore? Of course not. But I know that with the dark olive green color jumpsuit that I do have, I can get it pretty close with almost no manipulation at all.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's really important.
Yeah.
How much time do you have?
About 20 more minutes and I'm good.
Okay. So we'll take it to 1. How about before we jump to a few questions, tell me what would be your, would be your, I mean, listen, you have 8,000. Yeah, your dream shoot. Would it be Danielle Harris and
actually, I'm probably going to surprise a lot of people with if okay. Now, can I answer that? I can be at any moment in history at any point in time as well too, to be able to take a photograph of something.
Well, okay, well, let's do that, but let's also do one that you could feasibly do.
Okay, so all right, we'll start with the dream photograph. If I could have been the photographer to capturing the moment in history, this is probably going to shock a lot of people because they don't know this, but I'm a huge fan of the story of Secretariat, the horse, and what that horse did. I got books on the horse and everything. I would have loved to have been the photographer on the rail. The moment Secretariat makes the turn on the Belmont and he's pulling away from the pack.
Fascinating. Really cool.
And Turcotte is looking back at that moment. There's a shot. There's a guy who captured it. There's a photographer who captured it. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head because it was on the cover of Life magazine. I would have looked at that. That's just, it's historic. It's such like, I get super excited when I talk about photography, obviously. I would have loved to have been the guy to capture that moment in history and to be there to witness it. Like, holy shit, like, is this really going down? That would have been my ideal dream photo to capture. There's that one. And probably I would have liked to have been there when they launched Apollo 11, when Neil Armstrong and them were going, because there's some really cool shots that some of the photographers took then as well too. Probably more Secretariat I would have been. But now, as far as my dream photo shoot that I could actually physically do with someone, we'll use it within the horror, you know, like if I could bring someone into a photo shoot with me as part of the horror themed photo shoots that I would do, I gotta say I'd probably go. It's tough because I would love to do a Ghostface shoot with Nev. That would be fucking amazing. Like, I would just be like smiling eared, like Nev fucking Campbell. You know what I mean? Like, it's your Nev Campbell. Doesn't
hurt to ask.
No, and it's hard to top that. You know, Jamie Lee with Michael, just because it's Jamie Lee. I mean, yeah, it's cool, you know, but I don't know. I have to go with my heart and have to go with Danielle Harris. Obviously, that's not too much of a shocker.
No,
but if I had to really say, like, if I could only get one, then it would be Amy Steele. I'd want to shoot something with Amy Steele. You know,
Amy Steele? Sorry, I was just gonna say. I think she's retired now. She's been retired.
She's retired
for a long time. Is she active on social media though, or is there a way to get in touch?
No, she's not. I wish. Adrienne King is. Adrienne King's on Instagram, but Amy Steele isn't. And I was like, man, I really wish that Amy Steele was, because the reason why I pick the Sackhead Jason and that shoot, because one, I live close to where they filmed Friday the 13th Part 6. I already have the shoot mapped out in my head, what I would do. how I would shoot Amy Steele, how I would shoot the character and all that stuff. Like, I've thought about this like a million times. Anytime I'm up at that lake and I'm doing a Friday the 13th themed photo shoot, I'm always thinking, man, if I could have Amy Steele here, that would just be the icing on the cake for me. And plus, I'm in the middle of writing the script for my fan film, that we're going to work together on, which is a direct sequel to Friday the 13th Part 2, keeping the story of Sackhead Jason going and just forgetting Hockey Mask Jason. I know that's sacrilegion, but whatever.
Whatever. It's fan fiction. It's just fun.
Yeah, like Tabitha Short said it here. If I were going to shoot Nev Campbell, I'd probably have to pay like an arm and a leg to do a photo shoot with her. Amy Steele, I think if I were to get in touch with her, I probably would have to just pay for her accommodations, like fly her out, which totally I get. I'm asking her to be a part of something, and make sure that she's taken care of, food wise and accommodations and all that stuff. I think Amy Steele would have a ball doing it, and that's why I would choose her. Danielle, I think Danielle would get me and her might butt heads a few times because we both have those strong types of personalities, and
that's true.
It's just the way we are. That's not a knock at her. That's just how our personalities are. It's not saying that it would be bad. I'm not talking down on her. We just both have strong personalities. I think as far as overall fun, Amy Steele would be my choice to go. Like, if I could pick one person to bring in, it would definitely be her. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have fun with Danielle. I would, but I just think me and her would butt heads. I really do.
I could totally see that. I could. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. It's cool to get to, because there's a lot of things obviously that you talked about that I already knew, just by obviously being friends now for a couple years. But I mean, it wasn't for me. It was for the viewers. It was for the audience. To get to know the man behind the lens a little bit more, who is Tony Michael on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, but there's a lot of things that you touched on, talked about that I didn't know as well, which I thought was really cool. And for those of you that also may not know, you didn't mention this, but I want to mention it. You are also a gigantic fan of the Titanic as well. Not the movie, the Titanic necessarily, but the actual the story, the ship, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, I'm an honorary historian. That was done by the Titanic Museum. They gave me that in 99, 98. Somewhere around there, whatever it was, because the museum's up in Massachusetts,
right?
And I'm not like an official; I'm an honorary.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? And it was just something that, like most of us, back in the day, you knew the story. I was captivated by it, the tragedy that's behind it and whatnot. I mean, what Cameron did in the movie was really good. I have nothing. There's, I could have done without the love story, but I understand the love story carries the movie. You know what I mean? Like, and I get that you need something. You need an anchor, no pun, but you need an anchor, to carry the film, and it did. Yeah. And Kate and Leo were they were the shit, and I mean, had every girl crying in the theater at the end.
That's true.
But I mean, interesting fact that a lot of people don't know, but when you shop in Macy's department store, the founders of Macy's, Isidore and Ida Strauss, they founded Macy's and died on the Titanic. The old couple that you see holding each other at the end of the film, that is the founder of Macy's department store. And
I did not know that.
Very cool. Didn't know that. Yeah, that they died. So every time I'm in Macy's and I'm shopping, I'm like, your founder died on the Titanic.
That's really cool. I did not know that. You know what? I'm going to go into Macy's now and say that.
I do it all the time.
Your founder died on the Titanic.
But I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I'm like the Grand Canyon, man. There's a lot about me that people don't know. It's cool to be able to do this, to give you guys a little more insight.
Well, listen, we got about 10 minutes left here with you. Let's take a couple of questions. A couple of super chat questions did come in from that stream that failed on us earlier.
Okay.
Todd Fayer said, "Hey Tony, do you do any Phantasm pictures?" Or hey Tony, do you do any Phantasm pictures?
Oh, the character. It's not one that I've thought of doing. Right now on the horizon, I can disclose this because now I've got the okay from the models and now we're making the costumes.
Right.
On the horizon, I've got coming Art the Clown. I've got the Nun, Valak, and Annabelle. Those are the three ones that I'm going to mix in. They're not going to be part of the starting 5 rotation. The starting 5 are always going to be Michael, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, Ghostface. And
you know what's cool? If Terrifier 2 is successful and they decide to do a third one, maybe you guys should, reach out to each other. Maybe you could be the on-set photographer for
kind of what I'm hoping. I'm kind of hoping to create some cool photos to get their attention to go, wait, who's
well,
this
I
dude?
know. I don't know him personally, but I've met one of the producers on that film. His name's Michael Levy, and I could always, talk to him, see if he, see what he thinks. But we'll cross that bridge when it comes. Let's see how Terrifier 2 does first, and if they even want to do a third one. But very cool. Okay, so the other super chat also from Todd Fair. Thank you, buddy. This is from the other stream, of course. Hey, Dave and Tony. I think I asked you guys before, but are you guys fans of the Outlander series on Starz? I've never heard of the series, and I've never heard of Starz.
Starz is like HBO, Showtime, Cinemax. Okay. It's like that.
Oh, okay, cool. No, I can't say I am, but I can't say I'm not because I've never seen it. Super chat comes in from Anthony Stanfield. He says, do you think a Tyler Mane-sized Ghostface would work? Tyler Mane-sized Ghostface? That would be pretty intense because wouldn't it be obvious who it was then? Because wouldn't all the other actors have to be that size? Because
wait, what was the question?
The question was, would a Tyler Mane-sized Ghostface work?
No,
I don't think so.
Look, I mean, Matthew Lillard is a tall guy, but he's lanky. You know what I mean? So I try to keep that thought.
And he's not 6'8" though.
No. Yeah. He's not. I when it comes to Ghostface, I do use the body frame thought process of Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich,
right? Yep,
something like that. Who played Billy Loomis. So it's about maybe 6 feet, 6'1"ish. He's not a big guy. He's a thin guy too. Same thing with Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard is a tall guy, but he's a thin guy. So I keep that in mind. Just like the body frame of Michael in my photos, some people get on me for that he's too skinny. I'm like, well, have you seen the original film? Have you seen what Nick Castle was a skinny dude. He wasn't a big guy. And
no, he wasn't. Very skinny.
And I think in the same thing with I almost said William Gillette, but it's not William Gillette. Is it William Gillette is
Who are you talking about?
Oh my God, Jason from Part 2.
No.
Why am I
Dash?
Yeah, I keep wanting to say William Gillette, but it's not William Gillette.
Isn't it Dash something?
No. Chat room will help me out on his name.
Friday from Part 2?
Yeah, Jason from Part 2.
Yeah. I thought it was Dash something. He died. He died recently, like a couple years ago.
There was 2 guys who played him.
Oh, there were 2 guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the guy that
Gillette,
Steve Dash,
I think was his name.
Steve Dash. Yeah. Steve Dash played him.
Am I confusing?
You might be
confusing. I might be confusing the Jason.
You might be confusing. Steve Dash was the guy who played him in Part 2, and he passed away a couple years ago.
And he wasn't a big guy in the sense of like when you look at the Jason, and the same thing with Nick Castle's Michael. And to me, I've always said this. When it came to those versions, that's more scarier than a big dude like Tyler Mane or Derek Mears. Look, Derek Mears and Tyler Mane, they're intimidating scary. They're just, you look at that's a big dude. Yeah, you're gonna whoop my fucking ass. There's nothing.
He'd be fucking scary in a pair of Hawaiian shorts and a collared shirt at the supermarket.
It's not that hard. But when you look at Warrington Gillette, thank you guys. The Warrington, the guy that was a Jason, but it's not the one that's where the confusion was. But anyways, Steve, when you look at Steve Dash, he wasn't a big guy. You look at Nick Castle, he wasn't a big guy. Right. That is intimidating when it's not a big guy coming at you. You know what I mean? That is scary. That's like, what the fuck? Especially like when why I prefer the sack head over the hockey mask. I'm not saying the hockey mask isn't iconic. It's an iconic symbol. I have it hanging there in the background. It's a part of the horror lexicon. But there's just something really disturbing about a dude wearing a sack with one eye. Like, why does he got only one eye showing? And I always felt like there's so much more to explore with that version of Jason. And that's why I favor that character more on my Instagram and why I focus in on that. I take nothing away from what the character evolved to. It's legendary in the genre. But to me, I just find it a little bit more scarier when I see a dude fucking wearing overalls and coming at me with a sack on. Like, what the fuck?
I agree. I've always liked Sackhead Jason, and what I like about what you're doing is that there's not a lot of people and understandably so. I mean, I get why there isn't, but you rarely, not never, but rarely see Jason even cosplayed as Sackhead Jason.
Very rarely. Not many people do that.
And most of the Friday the 13th fan films, if not all of them, don't have Sackhead Jason. So it's refreshing to see your take on that. Super chat from Frank Riker says, Tony, would you rather shoot an advert for a senior nudist colony or a house filled with jumping spiders and millipedes? Oh.
Well, considering a lot of my shoots are done in abandoned places, believe me, I've been in some creepy environments.
Oh,
so
especially down there.
Yeah, that shit doesn't bother me at all. I'll sleep in those places. It's weird. I feel like I'm at home when I'm in those creepy abandoned places. I don't get creeped out at all. I'm very, very relaxed. In fact, some people have even commented on that during the shoot, like, you're just too relaxed here, which makes them a little bit on edge, because I am. I feel like I'm in my natural environment. I'm shooting what I love. It just, to me, this is like my ideal version of heaven. So yeah, I could do both. I mean, honestly, I probably would shoot both.
Cool. Jonathan Ball says, Tony, ever shoot anything at Fort Stewart or Fort Benning, Georgia? Military bases are always looking for photographers. P.S. How's the spider bite you posted on social media?
Oh, that was a while ago. That was like months ago when I had
it was months ago, I think I remember seeing that.
I was on my ankle, and my ankle swelled up to like a golf ball. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
But yeah, did you ever shoot anything at any of the military bases? Or
no, but what I don't not at the military bases, but what I do for active military people and retired, mostly it's been active over the last 2 years, is every November I'll do holiday photos for free, family pictures, for people who are currently active in the military. And I work with the VA on that, and they'll give me some names of some people, shoot the people an email like, hey, I'm a photographer, this is my portfolio, blah, blah, blah. And just to say thanks for serving our country, and whatever, I want to do a nice family picture for you and your family for the holidays. So that's been something I do, and I don't promote that. And it's not like, oh, good job, Tony. It's just something I like to do. And, it's not something I like, want advertised and talk about or whatever, even though I'm talking about it right now. But the reason I don't do that is because I do that every year down here in the South.
Right. Interesting. So yeah. Tony, when you what's your, okay. All right. No, that's interesting.
No,
that's interesting.
Well,
yeah, no. I was trying to think of like yeah, no, I already asked it because I was thinking about, I was going to say, what would be the ideal, but I already asked it, and we talked about that already. Lead Poisoning says, Tony, would you consider doing Legends of the 80s metal photo shoot, such as Motley Crue from Shout at the Devil or Ozzy, etc.? That's kind of different, but funny.
It would be fun to do just in general, but probably not like for what I do on Instagram. Believe me, I have a plan for what I'm doing, and the plan is that it
takes a lot of fucking work to pull off what you pull off.
And the plan is that I'm gonna make a film Friday the 13th. I'm gonna make a Halloween film. I'm going to, if I can't, do it, coming through the front door in the industry, then I'm gonna go around and do it the back way and figure out a way, one way or another. I'm gonna prove my worth. I'm gonna prove that the content I'm gonna give to you guys is going to be really good, and I'm just going to keep cranking out the photos, and I'm going to let the film part of this organically happen. I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to do it.
It's a way to do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the overall long-term, game plan. I can't sell the images because I did see a couple questions pop up on that. Because
I was going to ask you that earlier. Yes.
The copyright. They're copyright. Right. The characters are copyright. I would get in serious trouble without getting the studio's permission to sell the merchandise or to sell the photographs. They're, even though it is my photo, the characters are licensed, like Blumhouse, I would say right now. Blumhouse and COD own the rights to Michael Myers, the character. That's right.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, you can take the photos, you can have fun with it, you can post it, but you can't sell the images because the character in the image is owned by somebody else. So yeah, no, that's very true. All right, couple more minutes. Let's see. Chastity Smith says, Dave and Tony, what job have you done that had humbled you or impacted your lives forever? Humbled me.
There was a video thing here recently for me, part of the military, actually, not directly, but it was, I had to film not really a conference in the sense of like a conference. It was a small meeting here in Georgia, and a company contracted me, and it was for active semi-retired military people, suicide, preventing suicide, and who battle with suicide thoughts, and listening to their stories and what they go through and what they talk about. That was very enlightening. That was like, like it's moments like that really put shit in perspective at times, when you sit there and you're debating with a troll on the internet who wants to fight with you over some dumb, stupid nonsense because you don't agree on what's happening in Halloween. And here I'm listening to a dude battle with trying to keep himself alive and not commit suicide for the shit that he's seen in Afghanistan and Iraq and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, my problems are very little compared to what these guys are going through. And it was just very, very enlightening, very difficult to listen to. And, it was cool to be a part of, but that was definitely one of the more recent, that was within the last couple of months. That was a very enlightening experience.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine. I can't say that I've done a job that has humbled me. It's certainly in that way. I mean, I don't really have the kind of job that I would necessarily run into that per se. But I will say that things that do humble me are anytime I see a child that has cancer or is terminally ill. Like we have one of the best children's hospitals in the world here in Toronto called Sick Kids Hospital, and they're incredible. There's a street in downtown Toronto that's just sort of informally called Hospital Row, because there's about 5 of the major hospitals all like right beside each other. It's kind of weird, but good at the same time because you know where the hospitals are. But anyway, so great hospital. But anytime I see a commercial on TV for them, or I know that, the Make-A-Wish Foundation is taking all these kids to Disney World or something, and you see the smile on their faces and they're so excited, and they're only 6 and they're dying, and it's like, fuck, it seems so incredibly unfair. So incredibly unfair. And, although, you know what? I will say this too. That's not, what I said earlier isn't entirely true. I did actually one time go to the Toronto General Hospital, and I guest spoke to their inpatient, they're in like the psychiatric patients that had to stay there, and I guess they're able to choose, like they bring people in to talk to them to keep their minds stimulated, and they can choose all sorts of things. And they chose a speaker to come in and talk to them about voiceover, which was now this is like 12 years ago. It was a long time ago, but I remember doing that, and that was interesting, seeing all the different sorts of people, but yeah, the kids are and anytime I see it, or I see just that's the tough stuff right there. Yep. That's the tough stuff.
Jeremy asked a cool question here. I don't know if I can answer that.
Sure.
He said, Tony, as a photographer, how hard is it to achieve the lighting and aesthetic you see in Halloween and Friday the 13th? It's not hard in the sense that I know, because I've studied the films, and I know like what Tommy Lee Wallace and Cundy and Carpenter were doing as far as like the type of white balance the camera was going to be set at on film. So it's more or less what I typically do is, if I have my Myers photo up here or Jason photo up here, I'll have like, still, scenes from the movie right up, here on my second monitor, and I'll be looking, and then I'll just be like, all right, I got to dial it in here, and I got to, tweak this a little bit. Because the overall look that I tried to achieve, because I sat there from August until March for 6 months, I had debated in my mind, how did I want to present my photos? Did I want to go the illustration route and go like the over the top, artsy type photographs, which are great. I think they're phenomenal. I think what these guys are creating are absolutely amazing. Or do I want to approach it from more of like, for those who are on Instagram and are familiar with this, there's a lot of people who do the same type of color scheme, same color tones. Did I want to take that approach and just do what everybody else is doing? I was like, no, my gut instinct was, if I could get, even though I'm shooting digitally, if I could get the photos to look as close to the authenticity of how these characters in the movies were, with the same type of lighting tone, the same overall aesthetic color tone look, has more of that old organic film look, then I knew that people were going to go, hey, whoa, okay, this reminds me of Halloween 78, or reminds me of Friday the 13th. And that's the thing. The key thing is just knowing, like, studying the film, knowing, how, if I'm going to present Jason, part 2, then I want to make sure that I'm going to make sure the atmosphere around him feels like Camp Crystal Lake. I'm not just going to go out to the woods and shoot Jason in the woods. I mean, I have done that, but I've never liked those photos. I need something that, like, juxtaposed to him to make people feel like, yeah, this is Camp Crystal Lake. Or the same thing with Michael. I want, the way I composite the shot. Like, one of my favorite Michael pictures is where I'm shooting through the fence, and you see the fence post there, and it's Michael in the background.
Yep.
It's very Carpenter, Cundy, Halloween 78. So those are the things that I approach, and I'm pretty much dialed in on the white balance when I'm on the shoot. I just may have to dial it in a little bit more. So, like, when I'm in post-production, I'm looking at my photo, I'm looking at Michael standing in the backyard, Mr. Riddle's backyard, and that scene was shot a little bit warmer. It has a little bit more of a warmer tone. I brought it back into more of a bluer tone. That was just more my creative twist on it. But the overall feel, it's going to make you feel like, oh, this could have been a part of the 78 film. Maybe Michael was in another yard, and that's what I try to achieve. So it's not that hard, because I study all the source materials.
Right. And what's great about it too is that you're still making it your own. It's still, like, when I see a Tony Michael photo of Michael Myers, you are capturing the essence of the character, but it's still a Tony Michael photo. You know what I mean? It's still your interpretation of it. Right.
Would you agree that I
100%.
I have a style?
100%.
For sure.
You have a style. And that's important. You know what I mean? That's really important. I love your most recent Michael photo with him on the stairs. That's
the lighting
great.
on that is, like, so right out of the 78 film.
Yeah, it's a great shot. I really like that one. Jonathan Ball says, more. Yeah. We'll take it another 5 minutes because that'll bring us to 90 minutes, which is good, because I gotta skedaddle too then at that point, because I got a production meeting tonight with a cinematographer in regards to It's Me, Billy. So I have a dinner engagement I have to go to, and I got some things I have to do this afternoon as well. So and some exciting stuff. There could be some exciting announcements coming in the next week or so in regards to It's Me, Billy. We have actually already cast 2 of the roles. So and I do have to make a phone call this afternoon to one of the actresses. So okay, Jonathan Ball says, Tony, do you prefer Photoshop or Lightroom?
I was about to answer that in the chat.
That's funny.
Okay, Lightroom is good for the color grading that I do, and bringing in creating that film type look that I do digitally. And then Photoshop, for me, it's just maybe tweaking a couple things. I try not to rely on Photoshop in my photos. I really try hard to, unless there's an object that, like, unfortunately was just obstructing the shot, but I want the composition, so I may have to Photoshop the object out of the shot. Very rarely does that happen. I really try to get everything in camera, Lightroom, and then I might just dial it in just a little bit, because once I've got the overall look in Lightroom, and then I bring it into Photoshop, I'm in and out of Photoshop if I'm not removing anything within minutes, because I don't like using Photoshop as an anchor to say, oh, I'll get it in post. Like, I do everything I can to get the shot in camera, and then do very little post-production.
Very cool. Sorry, I was looking at why that wasn't coming up on the screen the way I wanted it to. There's something I want. Maybe it's got to be, you know what? That's weird. Strange. I don't know why it's doing that. Answer another one. I
think someone asked me, where is it? Oh, do I do many scripts? No, I'm not a writer. I mean, even the script that I'm writing right now, I'm going to have to give it to someone who's a proper writer, because mine is so like jumbled and all over the place and whatnot. And my dialogue is crappy, but I'm in the ballpark of what I want to do. Now I just got to dial it in and whatnot. And I think what I'm putting together, the idea for Friday the 13th, continuing the Sackhead Jason story arc, is a really cool idea. I'm taking elements out of it to make people feel like they're watching something from the 80s, but I'm setting it in modern time and I'm justifying the reasons for it. So I'm able to do something present day, but make it feel nostalgia, even though it's not nostalgia. So I think, and which is a really hard thing to do. And I like the direction that I'm going with it. And I'll talk with you about it off screen and whatnot. And because like I said, that's a project that, that I'm going to bring Dave in on to help me out with. In fact, I even got a role for you.
You got a role for me.
I got a small little role for Dave McRae.
Okay. I like it. Frank Greger sends a super chat, says, Tony, ever sketch your shots prior?
I don't sketch. I will storyboard. I'll grab still shots from the movies, obviously, and I'll put that in a folder as part of my storyboard. I'll look up some concept art designs that were done by artists, and a couple of them might go, "Oh, that's a cool idea," but I like to put my own spin on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'll change the composition. What was one? Put my Instagram account. There was one that I did recently that was an artist's idea from an artist that I flipped and turned into my photograph, and it was Michael holding the mask next to Judith's tombstone. I saw an artist draw some. I mean, that's a very popular photo that I've seen.
It is. It's a good one too.
It is. And I took that idea and I made a couple of changes to it because I liked the concept so much. I was like, yeah, that's a really cool concept, but I want to put my own little twist on it. Sometimes, like I've seen versions of that. It's done in illustration where it's Michael. You see majority of his body, but you don't see his head. You see the mask, but I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if I got really tight on the mask and have the mask just slightly juxtaposed to the tomb or to the grave, but you knew Michael was in front of the grave. That was the kind of I wanted to create that like overall look, like you knew the grave he was just set back enough to where it creates that little bit of depth of field blurring out the background and whatnot. So there are some times that I will see an artist, draw something. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. And I will interpret that into one of my photos, but make it more my own. And it's also how with my photos, it's how I would storyboard a scene. Like if I'm going to create a scene and I'm going to kill someone, I'm probably going to go back and go, you know what? I liked doing that. So now let's actually turn this into a scene. So it's a good anchor or crutch, I should say, for me to have for my own photos, because there's a lot of photos that I haven't even shared that I've taken that I'm going to use as part of the fan film, especially for Friday the 13th. But I don't want to show it. You know what I mean? Because I don't want people to go like, oh, fuck, I've seen this already.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So but there's some of it I will show and, whatever. But it is my way of how I create a storyboard.
Yes, exactly. And you have a very specific style and execution that's all your own. And I like it a lot. All right, folks, that's got to do it for us because I got some things I have to do this afternoon. But that is Tony Michael, professional photographer out of Atlanta, Georgia. Tony's little links are in the
professional. I wouldn't ever call myself professional.
You're a professional. Shut the fuck up and go home. Wait, he is home. Tony Michael photo on Instagram. Tony Michael pics on Instagram. If you want to check out all the horror stuff, that's at Tony Michael photo. If you want more of the landscapes and the surrounding areas of Atlanta, Georgia, and the greater Atlanta area, and all cool kind of abandoned shit.
It's Twilight Zone. I get a lot of Twilight Zone comments.
That's
from
cool.
people,
I like that.
Just like, Armageddon, end of the world, because there's hardly any people in my photos and the landscape pictures, but there's houses and stuff, and it just looks very like end of times.
Yeah, I've checked it out. I like it.
And don't forget Friday, guys, to join us Friday the 13th, baby.
That's right. This Friday night at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, episode 60, I think it is. We're watching Friday the 13th, part 2, and giving live commentary. So don't forget to tune into that. That's why there was no show last night, because we wanted to have the show on Friday the 13th. But you get 2 shows in like 3 days. You get Friday show, and then you got Monday show. So, I mean, you know, it's like, pretty crazy stuff. Double dose of Two Dudes. Wait, that didn't sound right. Anyways, good night, everybody.
It'll be a triple dose come Monday.
That's true. That's true. Thank you for the super chats, folks. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, Tony and I will be back on Friday. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers. That was good. My Patreon card is just going right now. My Patreon card. It was very good.
I felt like there was
That's okay. I know I'm still live. It's all right.